space!
It's never gone wrong before.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to more Marvel 2099. Before we get into the video, of course, if you haven't already, for some reason, go and support Sir Superhero. Link top of the description, like always.
Strange, confusing 2099 reboots that aren't related to the original. Now, we just have strange, confusing 2099 reboots that are related to the original. Yay!
Yay!
Oh, I need to mention something else. I'm cutting in and adding this after the fact, so if the flow of the video gets broken a little bit, it's because I'm recording this later, but I realized that I definitely need to briefly mention the video games that feature 2099. These two games, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions and Edge of Time, came out in 2010 and 2011 respectively. They were very popular and probably one of the things that kickstarted the reappearance of Spider-Man 2099 in 2013, which we're going to talk about in a minute once this little cut-in is over. These games...
I've never actually seen these games before. The first Spider-Man games I heard of were the Insomniac ones, as well as I think I did play the old one, where it has the meme of if you fail the QTE, and then the lady's just like, oh no, and then she dies, and depressed Spider-Man just walking away while everything goes to shit. I'm pretty sure I played that one.
I haven't played these games, but I know of them and I've seen clips and stuff from them.
Actually predate the original idea of Spider-Verse. The Spider-Verse event wouldn't happen until 2015, and the writer of that, Dan Slott, has openly said that the games were one of the inspirations for it.
Oh, cool.
They featured different versions of Spider-Man teaming up across realities, and 2099 was one of these. Whether this technically counts as an alternate universe or a future timeline is sort of left up in the air because, again, this was before Spider-Verse, so the distinction in Spider-Man stuff didn't really matter as much.
This dude here is actually black. Is this from the game? Because I guess I got it accurate.
In the game, it's like both black and bluish, kind of, but it was more black.
Yeah, I see. The color's somewhere in the middle.
Directly connected to the lore or world of the comics, which is why I didn't process I should probably mention them in the original recording, but the 2099 that we see here is pretty close to the 2099 from the 90s. Miguel himself is playable, and we see many 2099 villains appear as enemies and bosses. Even Kron Stone makes an appearance, though for some reason he is Scorpion, not Venom as he was in the originals. I don't have too much that I need to say about these games because, like I said, they are a spin-off series and not directly related to the comics lore. But screw it, while I'm here, I might as well clarify something else related to Marvel video games, that being Penny Parker. This will be quick, but if you're a Marvel Rivals player and are curious why Penny is not getting mentioned in this video, she is treated as a 2099 character in the Rivals setting, but in the comics, she is not that. She's from a different Spider-Man alternate future, but it was easier in Rivals to just loop her into 2099, so that's what they did. The rest of the 2099 setting there is actually pretty comics accurate though. Fun bonus thing you can do on your next Rivals game on that map, check the skybox and you'll see the logos and buildings for a lot of the corporations that I've mentioned throughout the course of this. Okay, there we go. Video game clarification intermission over. Let's get back to the 2099 comic stuff. The next 2099 story happens in the pages of Superior Spider-Man, which is actually my favorite Spider-Man comic, so I'm very happy to talk about it. This story revolves around Spider-Man 2099, the normal one from the original stuff, getting sent back into the past where he actually ends up staying for a while. And I bet a lot of you have easy predictions as to what exactly is happening here. He's going to do a Back to the Future, and that leads to the next iteration of 2099. And you're right, but not quite yet. It's time to return to the pin. To refresh memory about the time status of what we've gone over so far, the original 2099 universe back in the 90s was meant to be the future of the main Marvel universe. Like if you were in that world and time traveled forward 100 years, you would end up in 2099. The next two, Knights and Timestorm, were not that. They were not official futures, they were like weird alternate universes of a future time skip, which is probably one of the reasons why they were doing popular. With those. But if you remember back to the originals, I had you drop that little mental pin about halfway through the first 2099. This is going to be like the most confusing thing in this video, so if you can get through this, you will be cleared for the rest of it. The Superior Spider-Man story we're about to talk about features Miguel O'Hara, the original from the 90s, time traveling backwards, but he doesn't time travel from the end of 2099, he time travels back from the pin. For some reason, Marvel decided that this was the point Miguel should be time traveling back from. Not anywhere near the end of the 2099 stuff, but from the middle of it, before President Doom and that whole arc. And while he's in the present, he does do a Back to the Future. He does.
I mean, I guess once you get to the President Doom arc, that's leading to the end of 2099. So it's probably on rails at that point. Best to just reset it before then, so if this does work out, you can continue it in like its own little timeline.
Change the timeline, and the 2099 where President Doom is a thing never ends up happening, but not in a he changed things and now stuff is different kind of way, in a way where it just gets sort of retconned and erased entirely. This is weird, so I'm gonna make a diagram for it here. This is how these time travel things usually go, right? You have your one original timeline, then a character travels back to a previous point, changes things, that timeline branches off, and when the character returns to the future, he's in the new branched one and everything is different. We've seen this before. That is not technically what Marvel did, though. Here is what the 2099 timeline looks like.
Marvel
we have the
can
present,
never
we
do
have the
time stuff coherently in a normal way. I don't know. They do stuff weird and they do it inconsistently.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of corporate stuff is also happening in the background too, making it a lot harder to get all this stuff down, depending on sales and whatnot. So I can somewhat understand, and also multiple writers too. It doesn't really help. But yeah, like don't worry about the timey-wimey stuff when it comes to me and Serby. Like, we played Virtue's Last Reward.
Oh yeah.
We know about this. We got it down. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah. Pull up the Virtue's Last Reward time chart.
I mean, I'm not going to pull it up in case of spoilers, but if you know, you know. And if you don't know, play the game. It's really fun.
Yes, please.
Future with 2099 and the President Doom stuff, and then we have the pin in there. Spider-Man 2099 time travels back arbitrarily from the middle of the timeline at the pin, because that's just what Marvel wanted to do, and then changes things from here. So not only is the timeline changed when Miguel returns, like in a normal time travel story, this little chunk at the end past
just
the pin where the
disappears.
time travel happens just sort of gets sliced off like it never existed at all. Nobody experiences this in any capacity anywhere in the multiverse. It no longer exists because Marvel just maybe accidentally retconned it out of reality. This is never really explained and seems to be more of an unintended consequence of how they decided to write this comic more than anything else. But yeah, that's why I just ran really quickly through everything after President Doom. It was written in the 90s and now is just irrelevant for every purpose. If this was a multiverse storyline, it would make enough sense, right? This timeline got screwed up, and so it splinters off and becomes its own universe out with all of the rest of them. But it's not a multiverse storyline at this point. This 2099 arc is explicitly a linear timeline, which we know because that's the entire point. It's about Miguel accidentally changing things in the past, which then irreparably changes the future. That means it's not a different universe, it is one continuous thing. Now, the good thing about this is, like I said a second ago, if you have not turned the video off in frustration and confusion, we are through the worst of it. The weird 2013 retcon that they accidentally did is absolutely the most confusing thing in 2099's history, and the rest of this will be far easier. So, now let's talk about specifically what Miguel was doing in the past. Back in the present day, some time weirdness is going on, of course. It revolves around this thing called the Time Gate, the existence of which is jeopardizing the life of a man named Tiberius Stone. Now, you might recognize that last name because Tyler Stone, the vice president of Alchemax, has been mentioned many times. And yep, Tiberius is his ancestor.
Imagine having a name such as Tiberius. Boy, you feel so fucking cool.
He is also the guy that founds Alchemax, so his existence is very important to 2099 existing as it does. Tyler does not want Tiberius dying.
Your parents are your ancestor. It's not an incorrect word, but that is a funny choice.
Technically speaking, but yeah.
Because, well, if his family lineage goes away, so does he. And he ropes Miguel into this because, if you'll recall, Tyler Stone is secretly Miguel O'Hara's dad. Now, this is good enough reasoning for Miguel to go along with all this, because if Tyler vanishes, so does he. But importantly, Tyler does not know Spider-Man 2099's secret identity, so there's a weird gap there. Why would he ask Spider-Man 2099 for help if he doesn't know about the linear connection that is keeping them tied? The way that they resolve this is a really stupid cop-out excuse, yet it somehow also makes sense, and so I kind of love it. Miguel tries to ask for another reason to go because he's gonna do it anyway, but he's trying to keep his secret identity under wraps, so he doesn't want to go along with it so easily. And then one of Tyler's agents is like, well, we're looking into the future right now, and you're showing up there, so clearly you're going to do it. The reasoning doesn't really matter. We can see you going to the future, so why don't you just go right now? This works, and with the help of Superior Spider-Man, Miguel is...
Okay. Yeah, it's the usual weird timey-wimey stuff where I'm not sure if I'm going to make the decision, but then you see that you have already made the decision in the past. Well, technically in your future, but in the past that is happening currently to you. So you're like, well, okay. Who's going to defy that? If a version of me thought that was a good idea, then I'll do it.
For a reason to go, so yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
Was able to stop the Timegate incident and save Tiberius's life. But then, because Tyler is an awful person who does not care about his son and only cares about himself, he just leaves Miguel stranded back in the present because, well, that way he also gets rid of Spider-Man 2099. This looks like a win-win for him. While in the present, he decides to use his time in this era to make better changes for the future, not through massive sweeping alterations to the timeline, but through...
How incredibly stupid do you have to be to send somebody into the past to save you and then abandon them in the past as if they couldn't do anything to hurt you anymore? What?
You're just giving them all the time in the world to figure out what to do with you.
Oh boy.
Little nudges. To this end, Miguel O'Hara goes undercover in present-day Alchemax under the incredible pseudonym Michael O'Mara. But I mean, I guess he was from the future. It's not like people would expect him to be there, so it doesn't have to be the best name. This also conveniently leaves him in the present for the first Spider-Verse event, which Miguel is a big player in. 2099 as a reality also plays a big part as well, but Marvel kind of wants to have their cake and eat it too here, treating it as either an alternate universe or a future of the same timeline, just based on whatever they need it to be for the story. For a good chunk of Spider-Verse, they refer to the 2099 future as Earth 928, and
turns out they do actually refer to 2099 as a future of 616, not a separate number, which makes it more confusing. Actually, 928 is the official number, but I thought it came from this. I guess it was later. Huh. Well, regardless, I think Marvel, as their superhero said, doesn't really know whether they want to commit to it or not. So...
and jump back and forth between it and other realities just like it's any other alternate universe. But then they stop treating it like this the second Spider-Verse is over and go back to acting like it's the future. So...
Okay. Important thing to note here is that Marvel Comics never really leaned into the multiverse as a timeline branching thing like the MCU has decided to. The multiverse just exists, and not every reality is traced back to a defined branch point. In fact, the majority aren't. Yeah. They're just different universes running in parallel with each other, not necessarily a branch from one another.
For this purpose, just treat it like it's the future, because I believe that's what matters more. Regardless of how exactly 2099 fits into the cosmology of the Spider-Verse event, once it's over, it has provided Miguel a way to return to his own time, and this is finally where he Back to the Future's it. Remember that I said the 2099 timeline was a relevant location in the Spider-Verse comics? Some of the Spider People actually used it as their base of operations for a while, and it was here that they built a new multiverse hopping device. Tyler Stone was spying on them as they did that, though. He then copied their device, allowing him to time travel as well. Yes, he had some time stuff before, but that was different and more situational. This one gave him a lot more control. So while I said that Miguel did a Back to the Future, it's really Tyler who did it, and there's another step in there. Miguel time traveling back accidentally gave Tyler the information he needed to time travel himself, and then he goes back and alters things by becoming the leader of a terrorist organization. Confusing? A little bit, yeah, but the good news is that the specifics of it don't really matter. All that matters is that after Spider-Verse, when Miguel tries to time travel back to his reality, it is not the same at all, and is now a dystopian hellhole ruled by the Maestro, a future very evil version of Hulk. While the cyberpunk corporate 2099 wasn't necessarily great, this one was objectively worse for everybody, and so Miguel naturally wanted to go back again and undo the events that led to this worse reality. Fortunately, he had an ally in this new future in the form of Strange 2099. This is not Dr. Stephen Strange, it's a different woman who just goes by the code name of Strange, but she is the Sorcerer Supreme of this era. She actually appeared in the 90s comics briefly as well, so she knows who Miguel is, and thanks to her magic, she is able to remember the previous 2099 and survive through the reality warping. With Strange's help, Miguel is able to go back to the present and work on setting things right. And as he does so, he also sets up a sort of time window that would be constantly open, allowing him to peek into the future whenever he needed, so that he could make sure he wasn't breaking things further.
That's the concept of that sounds so funny. It's just like, change one thing. Hey, is the future fixed yet? No? Okay.
It's like, oh, it's worse. Okay.
Just peeking his head around the corner just to check in. Oh man.
Just, check up on it on a regular basis. Make sure everything looks the same no matter what.
Grown on me over the years. Like, I wasn't a huge fan of it when I first read these comics, but like the video game and just kind of more time with it, I actually quite like the white suit a lot. It doesn't have the nostalgia of the black suit, but I do like the design for it.
He's doing in the present day, which seems like a good idea, except having a constant time portal open isn't a good idea at all, and unsurprisingly, a villain from the future sneaks through there and starts messing up things again. The fight with this bounty hunter sends Miguel into 2099 yet again, where it has been back to the future a different time. It's still not the original 2099 as it should be, but it's also not the dystopian Maestro-controlled 2099 anymore. Instead, it's a secret third thing where the Sinister Six have somehow gained control of Alchemax and used their power to outlaw all superheroes. Miguel is able to piece together the course of events that leads to this outcome, and so continuing the pattern of him just ping-ponging back and forth between timelines, he returns to the present with the goal of making sure that the Sinister Six future does not happen. And that is kind of what they do, but Secret Wars is in the middle of this, so we need to sidebar for that.
Oh boy. Well, this is gonna be complicated.
Secret Wars. Oh, it's rear against ugly head.
So Secret Wars 2015 is...
Oh boy. Okay, big text box incoming. This is really pedantic clarification though, so don't feel obligated to pause and read the whole thing, it's optional. Well, I'm doing it anyways. When I say Secret Wars is in the middle of this arc, I'm not exaggerating. That event put every other series on hold, which meant that it split this 2099 Back to the Future story cleanly in half. This makes the exact order of events damn near impossible to parse, as the timeline gets shattered and rebuilt 3 times in rapid succession. Even if you read the comics in simple release order, some characters seem to just come out of nowhere. All this to say, the exact order I'm presenting here might not line up with the official timeline perfectly, but I did my best and it's close enough. Thank you for your hard work, Superhero.
To me, because I didn't read Secret Wars when I was reading through this, which would explain a lot of the confusion I had with it, but I always just assumed it was me and I forgot things.
Well, with you, that is a pretty safe assumption, to be fair. But yeah, no, this time it wasn't your fault. This time it's just new characters randomly appearing.
A whole gigantic thing, and the overarching plot of it is not super relevant to the 2099 story, but for this to make sense in context, I do have to very quickly go over what the concept for this Secret Wars was. The multiverse gets destroyed, and Dr. Doom, who was at the center of this gigantic thing, manages to salvage pieces of as many realities as he can and slam them all together into one planet called Battleworld, where the different realities are kind of like different nations. These areas were referred to as domains, and 2099 was one of them, but a new 2099, not the original from the 90s, not any of Miguel's Back to the Futurings. This was a completely separate one, but we have to talk about it briefly, both because it is pretty cool, and also it will be relevant in a couple of minutes. This one is a lot closer to the original. It still has characters like Strange 2099 and even John Eisenhart Hulk, but there are some important differences, with one of the biggest being that Miguel is now the head of Alchemax. Apparently, in this one, Tyler was not an awful father and actually accepted his kid, so now Miguel Stone is CEO. He does still have spider powers and is also notably less evil, plus he is the assembler and leader of the 2099 Avengers, who are the main characters of this little miniseries. Their Iron Man
in conflict with Stone.
He just randomly decided one day to Spider-Man himself? Maybe?
Maybe.
Also, is this guy tiny?
I can't tell. I was looking at it. Maybe?
Is Dr. Sonny Frisco, whose powers and core concept are pretty similar to the original Iron Man, though I do really like his suit. I hope we get this as a skin in Marvel Rivals at some point. Hawkeye and Black Widow are next, who I lumped together because their gimmicks are pretty similar. Both of them just take their animal names way more literally. Black Widow is a Spider-Woman and Hawkeye is a Birdman. There is technically a Vision 2099 on this team, but they are pretty different from the original. This one is a precognitive android that the team uses to predict events, but while this one diverges a lot, the next one is very similar to the original. It's Hercules. And it's just the same Hercules. He's an immortal, he lived to 2099, and he's still doing superhero stuff. But the most important and most interesting member of this team is their Captain America. This is Roberta Mendez, and she is essentially a Captain America sleeper agent. She was forcibly subjected to the super soldier serum, and her civilian persona has no idea that she's actually Captain America, but she has an activation code word, and so whenever Alchemax needs her to lead the Avengers, they just give her.
I don't know why I'm so tired all of a sudden. Must have been the tossing and turning the entire night. That is hilarious. It reminds me of the sleeper agent, which was one of the symbiotes. Same concept, really.
For that, she turns into her Captain America mode, and when her work in the field is done, she goes back to civilian life none the wiser. This also conveniently gives Alchemax a way to instantly deactivate Captain America if she rebels against them, which of course does happen. Yeah, Miguel is the leader of this Alchemax, but I didn't say he wasn't evil, I said less. The 2099 Avengers fight the 2099 Defenders, a vigilante group not affiliated with any corporations. Their roster is pretty simple. Strange and Hulk 2099 we've already talked about, and the next two are Valkyrie and Silver Surfer, who, like Hercules, are the same ones from the main reality. They are just immortals who stuck around. The only really new one is Submariner 2099, who is a genetic experiment conducted by Alchemax to make a human who could live underwater. Technically, this guy is also from the 90s comics, but he only appeared in 3 issues. He's more relevant here. Secret Wars 2099 was only a little mini-series, and it ends when Baron Mordo, who was secretly working for Alchemax the entire time, summons this giant squid monster. Then the Avengers and Defenders team up to fight it, and Miguel forgives them and clears all their criminal status. Like I said, he is less evil. So why did we sidebar that? I mean, obviously the characters are cool and worth talking about, but like, this was right in the middle of Miguel's time-hopping adventures. This was a weird little tangent to go on, but it is relevant. If you'll recall what I was talking about before Dr. Doom hijacked the entire plot, Miguel and his allies had figured out what they needed to do to set the timeline right. No more Back to the Futures, they had a path in front of them and they were going to return everything to normal, which they did, mostly. When Miguel actually enacts the plan and returns to 2099,
presumably the timeline shift is due to a mix of Miguel's bouncing around and the restructuring after Secret Wars. But since both were happening around the same time, as per the last big text box, figuring out what exactly happened is not something I was able to do. I mean,
That's fair.
Multiversal things happening, timeline things happening, all concurring at the same time, and none of them really related to each other. It's tough.
it's not identical to the one that he was trying to get back to. It's definitely closer to it. It's not actively controlled by new villains like it was in the previous 2 incarnations, but elements of it have been blended with the Secret Wars Battle World one.
Question. If you were trying to do like Miguel and you're like constantly like changing things, seeing if the future's better and going back and forth, would you ever find a good future? Because technically the world is pretty much always ruled by someone terrible. It's just different flavors of it, and sometimes it looks more normal.
I don't know if better future is the right word here. I think what Sir Super is trying to say is the same future that he's from, more so.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
That being said, depending on how you think of time travel, you can also say that it is now impossible for him to return to his original future because of him initially trying to time traveling in the first place. There are just too many events happening for you to set things right the exact way that they're supposed to be.
So I guess they settled for close enough.
Yeah. It depends on the series that you're looking at and what their logic for time travel is.
Plus, somehow Roberta Mendez Captain America has been time displaced and also ended up in the main timeline. This isn't like a new version, this is the literal one from Secret Wars who survived the whole multiverse restructuring. For this new 2099, in which Marvel just bites the bullet and calls 2100, things are basically the same as they were, but it is notably different and notably weird. However, Strange tells Miguel that they cannot risk doing it again, because they've been bouncing around so much the fabric of time is like one poke away from breaking. Therefore, they decide, you know what, this is close enough, and this is what 2099 is for a bit. This makes it essentially a soft
My world is back, and all I had to do was sacrifice the woman I love and my son. A cheap price, really.
reboot for 2099, a way for Marvel to bring the status quo of the reality back to what it was in the 90s, while also giving them an excuse to change things that they wanted to. So, reasonably, this brings us to the modern era of 2099 that all the recent comics have been in. Or at least you'd think that, wouldn't you? And you would be wrong. Everything would change one more time in 20...
Boss. I'm tired, boss. I'm tired and we're only halfway through the video, boss. Please let me rest. Why can't we just settle on one thing? Anything.
19, Real World Year 2019, which is a very big one for Marvel Comics as a company. The first Marvel comic ever was published in 1939, so 2019 was the company's 80th anniversary, a very big milestone and also one that put it at a midpoint, because not only was 2019 80 years back to the company's founding, it was also exactly 80 years forward to the year 2099. Given that this was such a perfect opportunity, which would literally only happen once, Marvel capitalized on it and released a really, really big 2099 event, and this one would set the status for the universe going forward. This event begins in the present day and revolves first around Doctor Doom. Around this time in the comics, Latveria was embroiled in some very complex political stuff, and this led to Doom getting assassinated. I mean, it wasn't actually Doom, of course, and this leads to one of my favorite scenes in the entire event, where Spider-Man just swings past all the bodyguards, rips the assassinated guy's head off, and is like, it was a Doombot. Did people not expect it was a Doombot? Obviously it was a Doombot. Right after this, Spider-Man 2099 shows up very randomly and delivers a cryptic message to Peter Parker about the future always changing before getting all weird and warpy and vanishing again, once again confirming that this 2099 is the future of the main Marvel universe and not technically a separate AU.
I can't wait for them to break this at some point. Oh boy. I feel like this is kind of a trope when it comes to time travel. When you have a character just appear in like a weird time warpy way and then leave a cryptic message and then disappear again into the time portal. Like in the DC movies too, they had the Flash do that. And I don't think it ever led anywhere. I'm thinking about it.
Anyway, even though the real Doom survives, somebody one-shot sniping a Doombot at a diplomatic event gets him royally pissed off, and he goes on a rampage the likes of which had not been seen before, not only taking the entire world over, but using his position to wipe out heroes as a concept.
Okay. This might be a little bit of an overreaction. Now, I understand somebody tried to assassinate you, but like,
Yeah.
how many people out there in the world would take that shot immediately if they had the chance? Let's be real here, Doom.
I mean, I feel like Doom would just take any chance he gets to do that. This is just the excuse that was handed to him.
I was already planning on doing it, but I'll just attach, my ulterior motives to this event to somewhat justify it to myself. Because ain't nobody else buying this bullshit, that's for sure.
The exact way that he pulls this off is par for the course in terms of complexity, but relative to this video, so it is still quite complex. After Doom goes on his little rampage in New York City, he returns to Latveria to start making war preparations. Reed Richards then pays him a visit to try and talk him down, which goes about as well as you would expect something like that to. They end up fighting, and the fight spirals onto Dr. Doom's time platform, a really iconic time machine for the character that I'm amazed has not been explicitly mentioned until now, but I know the Doom fans are very excited to hear the words. The platform takes both of the combatants to 2099, or maybe like a year or two before, but somewhere in the late 2090s. It also has some side effects of messing up their memories, especially the memories of Reed, who gets himself entangled with Doom. We then see Doom, in quotes, going on a little post-apocalyptic wasteland adventure, which reveals that in the gap between the present and the 2090s, much like the original, there has been some catastrophe that destroyed the world, though the nature of this one is explained even less than the previous. This Doom eventually arrives in Latveria, where it is revealed that he is actually not Doom, but is instead Reed with messed up memories. The real Doom has been doing his normal thing and already established himself in this new world where he is about to enact a big plan. Latveria was hit especially hard in the Nebulous Crisis, turning into a landscape called the Ravage. Not like the character Ravage, that's just the name of the place.
Oh, why you gotta do bro so dirty, man? Poor guy, he got chucked out into space, forgotten in a timeline that doesn't exist anymore, and now you're using his name? How dare you? That's his copyright, man.
Characteristically bitter about his home being destroyed, Doom vows to fix the world in his image, and since the heroes and villains of the heroic age were responsible for that crisis in one way or another, he erases memory of them. With a combination of complicated magic and also exploiting the hell out of the abilities of the Watcher, Doom not only erases the heroic age from history, but also wipes it from everybody's minds, leading to a 2099 where there are no more heroes and nobody has any idea that there ever were. This means that the new destined future of 2099 was similar enough at a base concept, but different enough that, well, that Marvel could use it as an excuse to reboot the entire thing, taking elements of all of the previous 2099s that they liked and combining them into one new unified one. And I'm willing to accept the confusion because of how unified this one actually is. Everything after this 2099 has been relatively cohesive with one another, and they don't seem like they're going to reboot it anytime soon. This one has been going for 6 years and counting.
Yeah.
Finally.
Though before we talk about that, which is what the rest of this video is going to be about, I should briefly address a concept.
I hope they have good stories in it, because the setting is really cool. They maybe just released it at a time where it wasn't right for the audience, or we just didn't have the right stories and characters ready for it.
Continuity question that I'm sure some of you now have. If Doom and Reed get sent into the future and then they do things in 2099, what about in the present? Like, there's still a Doom and a Reed, so how did that happen? Aren't they in the future now? The answer is that Marvel sort of just hand waves that and moves on. I originally tried to do a full in-depth explanation of this as best I could, and it was like 10 minutes long and still didn't make sense, so now I'm just gonna give you the short version. By pure coincidence, really, Spider-Man, like Peter Parker Spider-Man in the present, happens to have a time device that can look into the future as Doom is going on this assassination-fueled rampage, and then in his comic, he's able to avert this future, so Doom and Reed never actually do their time travel thing, but then for unexplained reasons, the new version of 2099 remains, even though logically it really shouldn't.
Yeah, that makes no sense, actually. Especially if we're dealing with this,
trying to think.
this being the future in the same multiverse, right? We're on the same timeline, in the same universe. 616. Then no, that entire event shouldn't have happened, and 2099 Doom and Reed shouldn't be there anymore. But
In my mind, timeline wires got crossed, and whatever entity tried to fix them just kind of reconnected the wires wrong.
that's a good way of looking at it, even though it's a pretty flawed explanation. But like, you know, it's a rope, right? And so you cut the rope in half, and then one side goes to the other side, and then the other one kind of fixes it and keeps on going straight, but then you bring out the one that went out to the right and then just wrap it around back in the original timeline. It's still like one singular rope. Yeah. But no. Oh my god. Well, we do what we need to in order to reboot 2099. That's the important part.
Yeah.
If you want a better explanation, no, because as best I can tell, there isn't one. But now things are going to get good again because the new 2099 is largely interesting and well thought out. It, at the surface level, resembles the old one. There's a lot of corporate control and oversight of things, and people worship superheroes as religious figures. But now you might be wondering, how is that the case if nobody remembers them? And that is the jumping off point for the new Age of Heroes in 2099. Remember, Doom was able to wipe everybody's minds via magic, and now his spell is weakening. People aren't immediately regaining their memories and history, but they are starting to seep back in. And because they're getting these weird clouded half memories, they are not seeing them as pure history yet, but they are interpreting them as myth and religion. So as the concepts of superheroes and supervillains are slowly starting to re-enter the public consciousness, the world is being primed for a resurgence, and that's exactly what we get.
I see. So same conclusion, different ways of reaching that conclusion. We've also been along our Marvel lore journey long enough for me not to remark upon this immediately, but I do want to note that, of course it's Doom. Of course it's yet once again Doom. He's here almost as much as Mephisto. It's like, if it's not Doom, it's Mephisto.
I think
or
Doom
both.
shows up more. Yeah.
Oh, God.
The real beginning of the new heroic age is once again
got his
the
finger
appearance
in all the
of
soups.
Spider-Man 2099, whose origin is relatively simple, but is also a little bit of time nonsense. We're never going to escape it fully. The core elements of this Spider-Man's origin are basically the same as the original, but shuffled around a little bit. Miguel O'Hara is still a scientist working for Alchemax, he still gets addicted to Rapture, though that happens earlier in this version of the story, and he's still working on genetics research which is related to spider DNA. However, he starts having hallucinations of the previous 2099, because, you know, Doom didn't make this one just through normal time travel, he also used magic to create this splinter reality, and I guess somehow that means that this Miguel remembers it, at least subconsciously. And then the previous Miguel O'Hara shows up, but he's an old man. Like, this is the Miguel that had gotten sent into the past previously and then just lasted to 2099, and he tells this new version of himself from the new timeline that he has to become Spider-Man to kick off the Age of Heroes, and Miguel eventually reluctantly does so.
When you're your own Uncle Ben? Bruh.
As is an excuse that I've had to return to way too many times in this video, this is dumb, but I'm going through it quickly because it doesn't actually matter that much. Marvel just wanted to have the old Miguel show up in this, I guess, but after this he never shows up again, and this 2099 is a true reboot. And it's a reboot that happens to work very specifically in a way that is great for the kind of YouTube videos I do. I'm gonna peel back the curtain for you guys a little bit. Originally, when I decided to make a 2099 video, it was just gonna be about this reboot. And then I decided, screw it, let's make it feature length and go back through the whole history. But the reason that I wanted to do a modern 2099 video is that this new universe is just unapologetically a character showcase in every conceivable way, and it kinda rules. 2099 is Monster of the Week now. There are loosely connected plot lines that go throughout multiple comics, but the vast majority of the single issues are just about one popular hero or villain and their 2099 version. This, in my opinion, is exactly what something like 2099 should be. You have your core protagonists, like Spider-Man, but the other promise of every issue is that you're gonna get to see a character you're familiar with in a cool new cyberpunk variant.
I think this approach is good, especially if you're not sure how well this is going to go. Because then, at the very least, readers can expect, if they don't enjoy this issue, the next one may have something cool that you vibe with, or a character that you've been looking forward to showing up again. So it creates an expectation towards the next issue.
I don't mind Monster of the Weeky stuff. I always will prefer if there's an overarching storyline in the background, though.
I would hope that there is, considering there's a main character, as in our Spider-Man, you know? So maybe he gets involved with all these Monster of the Week events, and then it culminates into something. But with how we've written the timeline, we'll see.
This new format seems specifically designed to just let the comic creators have fun in a very low pressure environment, which means that basically anything can happen. You want Techno Cyborg Man Thing? Go for it. Conan the Barbarian with a Nova Core helmet? Yeah, that sounds neat. Space Warlock Silver Surfer who gains powers from a demonic deal with Mephisto? Sure,
oh
why
my
not?
God.
There are
Of
so
course.
many crazy characters in the new 2099, and we're gonna talk about all of them, because this format also makes it very easy for me to just tell you about cool cyber characters, and therefore your reward for getting through all the time nonsense is just a rapid-fire bombardment of awesome shit. These little showcase miniseries are 5 issues each, and every batch has its own distinct theme. We will start with the first of these lines, the one that launched alongside the 2099 reboot in 2019. The theme of this one is largely characters who were in the original 90s comics, and also Conan is here. Doom 2099 is the first in this set, though we're actually not going to talk about this one, not because it's bad or anything, but because we already did. This is the comic that elaborates on how exactly Doom created this new 2099 in the first place, which we already covered. The second is Ghost Rider 2099, which we can also kind of skip because I guess Marvel's writers decided that Zero Cochran was perfect as he was in the 90s. This comic is not changed at all. It's not even really a reboot. It is nearly shot for shot what the 90s one was. Zero Cochran is a hacker from Transverse City, hacks into the wrong thing, gets himself killed, uploads his consciousness into cyberspace where he meets a rogue AI, and then gets downloaded into this anarchist Terminator body. He then goes on to fight Demonics, which is run by his dad. Really, the biggest difference is that they kind of speedrun that arc in this one singular issue, and he just murders his dad with his chainsaw hand right at the end before going on to other things. Now we move to Punisher 2099. This one is actually different. Under this skull is a man named Hector Tago, though interestingly, Jake Gallows is still around in this universe, he just never became Punisher. Both this Jake and Hector are agents of the Public Eye, which still exists in this 2099 in essentially the same form, Alchemax's private police force, but in this reality, they have some new tech. The most important of this is a system known as the Iris, basically a hyper-advanced body cam which directly records the sensory input of officers so that events can be experienced from their perspective later. When this comic starts up, we see Hector using the Iris to revisit logs of a Thorite uprising that he was assigned to. During this incident, he killed one of the Thorites who was wielding a weapon and threatening another.
Oh my God. Social score 69,683. Oh boy. We're really psycho.
From that.
We're really psychopassing this future a whole lot with this police force.
Officer, but for some reason, this doesn't sit right with him. He has a nagging feeling that things actually went down differently, but he's not 100% sure, and since the record is right in front of him, that's what everybody believes. But he feels weird enough about this to dig into it further, uncovering larger police corruption. This is going to get real dark for a second, but I guess that's what you should expect from Cyberpunk Punisher. It turns out that the events recorded by the Iris were actually being manipulated, and during the Thorite incident, Hector did not kill an unarmed protester, but had mistakenly killed a man who was surrendering as he thought the guy was armed during the heat of the fight. Since this was obviously not a good look for the public eye, it was completely wiped from the record, and it turns out that Jake Gallows was actively involved in this. Not able to live with himself as an officer after realizing the truth of what happened, Hector releases the unedited footage to the public and becomes the Punisher, vowing to take down the organization that he previously worked for. As part of this, he kills Jake and then goes on the run, now a fugitive exile. I actually really like this Punisher 2099. I mean, obviously it's dark, but I feel like this one leans into the cyberpunk things way more than the original did. The original was just kind of normal Punisher, but with cyberpunk guns. This one...
Yeah, I mean, the OG one was basically Punisher going around being a cowboy, shooting up some folks that he thought needed to be shot up. Because this town ain't big enough for the two of us. Which, you know, had its own charm, in a way.
Sure.
has theming. We get to leave dark territory for the next one with Fantastic Four 2099. The Fantastic Four are a team known for being optimistic and positive, except not this one, not at all. This one is arguably scarier than Punisher 2099.
Really?
This issue begins with Herbie. Not even Herbie 2099, the same Herbie from the main timeline who has persisted into the future, though he is the only member of the Fantastic Four to do so, and is now looking to reunite them in some way. His memory is a little bit scattered. It seems like he's had some kind of malfunction over the last century, but regardless, he unites with a bounty hunter named Venture, yes, a version of the same bounty hunter who kept fighting Miguel in the 90s comics, and they go out looking for the Four. As their journey continues, they pick up a band of misfits with powers uncannily similar to the people that they are searching for. One with ignition abilities, one who can turn into crystal, one who is a shape-shifting technomancer, and one with an invisibility cloak. As you would expect, their hardships bring them together, and they realize that they can now be the new Fantastic Four. Herbie has not found his original family, but he has united the team nonetheless, and now they can progress into the future.
Kind of a fun concept.
And
for like
then they fucking die.
Spinoff. Damn it!
That's such a fun concept. I can't wait to see where their adventures are going to take them. Oh, shit. Fucking dead. Everyone's dead.
I can't believe this. God damn it. I was just going to say, you've got the team of like, the whole thing is family, having like a reboot with like a found family. I'm like, that's cute. You gotta go and ruin everything, Marvel. Why would you do this?
It's cyberpunk, Sari. There is no happiness in the grimdark future.
Pages of this comic. All of the new F4's powers malfunction at the same time, leading to them perishing in horrifying body horror-esque ways, to which Herbie has a freak out because his plan didn't work again. Yeah, it turns out that Herbie's malfunctions were way worse than anyone had thought, and he had gone completely off the deep end, conducting experiments on people in an attempt to try and recreate the Fantastic Four anew. He had done this a lot, and they had all failed, killing these subjects in horrifying ways. And then the comic ends with Herbie apologizing to the dead F4 for messing it up again and saying that he's going to keep trying and, I guess, presumably killing more people. There were mixed opinions on this one when it came out because it's really not this until the end. The big twist is very unexpected, which some people liked and some people understand.
I don't hate the twist, but I feel like you gotta seed something a little bit better, maybe.
Yeah, maybe some foreshadowing could have been placed there. Like, a twist can be cool. It's just that if it comes out completely unexpected and it's also horrific like this,
well, I
with
feel like
a
the
beloved
problem with something
character,
like this, because I enjoy a twist like that. But when you set up something being like, these are your new Fantastic Four that you can, you know, fall in love with and enjoy and will be going forward with, and then you subvert it and just kill them all, you're going to have a dissatisfied audience because you've primed that audience to like these characters and then you take the thing they like away.
The problem with subversions like this is it makes the audience feel like they wasted their time reading it.
Exactly.
Like, why do I even care anymore?
Which is why you have to set up something like that really carefully. If the twist is going to be that they die in the end, you can't have your audience hooked on just those characters. You've got to give them something else to focus on.
Understandably didn't. Moving on from that, we get to the new Venom 2099, whose origin is probably the simplest of them, so this will be quick. The Venom symbiote in this pairing is presumably the exact same symbiote, once again just surviving into the future, but under the symbiote is a teenager named Aaliyah Bell. Aaliyah was very badly injured in a vehicle crash as a child, and as a teen was subjected to an experimental treatment by Alchemax. I'm sure everyone can kinda see where this is going. The experimental treatment, while marketed as a miracle cure, was actually them testing out how to bond their captured symbiote to people. So Aaliyah gets bound to a piece of the Venom symbiote, not actually the whole thing, but this is enough to take her on something of a rampage. For most of the issue, she just has a Venom arm because this is all the symbiote can muster, which is actually kind of interesting, though at the end she recovers the other pieces and basically just turns into a normal version of Venom. There's not that much cyberpunk in this one, it's kind of just medical experiment Venom. And then they do the classic Venom thing where the symbiote wants to eat people, Aaliyah will not let it do that, and so they become an anti-hero pairing where the symbiote just really messes up bad people only. Lastly, for the original batch, which yes, there are 6 in this one, I miscounted, there are 5 for all the future ones, but this one has 6, Conan the Barbarian 2099, who I briefly pitched at the intro to this section. Conan is one of the few people who actually had an understanding with Doom through the whole erasure of the Heroic Age. Because of this, he was allowed to become king of a land that once occupied Mexico, as long as that kingdom would stay on good terms with Latveria. When the sorceress Morgan Le Fay, who was an enemy of Latveria, tried to escape through this land, Conan kept up his allegiance to Doom and killed her. But in her dying breath, she cursed the barbarian, saying that he would be immortal until the sun itself burned the earth under his feet. Now, this all happens sometime before 2099. The origin of the Conan story happens when Doom erases the Heroic Age, and over time, as the rest of the world becomes more cyberpunky, Conan's kingdom withers. Conan, of course, is fine as he's now immortal, but he doesn't have the great power that other regions of this world do, so he watches helplessly as his people flee his region to other places where they will be safer. However, all this changes when a member of the Nova Corps crashes in front of him and dies. In his final breath, the man gives Conan his Nova helmet, which is what gives all the members of the Corps their powers, and asks him to return it to the Nova Corps out in space, a charge that Conan accepts. Thus, we have galactic cyberpunk Nova Corps Conan the Barbarian, which, I mean, yeah, nothing else exemplifies the writers just having fun with it.
Yeah, it's a funny concept, but I mean, this entire setting was kind of meant for that, so it works out. Are the Nova Corps like the space police, essentially?
Yeah, pretty much. Kind of like Marvel's Green Lanterns, if you will, but a little different.
I was gonna ask, because I think
The
I've
powers are
heard
different, obviously.
I've heard the name before from Marvel Zombies, but I'm still presuming you haven't seen it yet. So
No, I haven't. They also show up in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, so they're pretty different in those movies.
Gotcha. Maybe in ones that I haven't seen, because I'm pretty sure I only saw the first one. But yeah, I mean, maybe. I may have seen the other ones, I just don't remember them very well, to be honest with you.
Exemplifies the writers just having fun with it concept of this 2099 more than this dude. And of course, this is not just an arbitrary combination of things, it is directly related to his curse, as the ability of the Nova helmet to travel through space lets Conan break it. He uses the helmet to unlock an abandoned Nova Corps spaceship which was left on Earth, takes some earth, just like some dirt from the ground, puts it on the ship, and then moves the ship close enough to the sun that the heat from it scorches the dirt away, along with the ship itself, of course, but Conan is protected by the helmet and survives. And since the light of the sun has burned the earth under his feet, Morgan Le Fay's curse is shattered, and
I fold, bro.
That's some technicality loophole type shit.
Wow. You see, with the way that this legal contract is worded, this technically fulfills the contract. So, yeah. Later, nerd. My God.
He is free once more. He doesn't die immediately either. This is not a case where the immortality goes away and he crumbles into dust. No, he sticks around, he keeps the helmet, and goes on to keep having space adventures. This one kicks ass. The only thing that is really disappointing about Conan 2099 is that he never shows up again. We're going to address the 2099 Nova Corps. I know people were probably curious about that, but sadly, even when those characters start appearing again, Conan does not. This is the one comic where he actually does
Why,
things.
though?
After Conan, the first batch of the 2099 reboot is complete, and we can move on to the second one, which is a lot more centered around Spider-Man. This batch is called Spider-Man 2099 Exodus, and it begins with a Celestial crashing into the planet. To recap again how these little batches
great.
of comics are going to go, essentially
every
each
day of
set
it.
of 2099 comics has a loosely connecting arc that stretches across all the characters, and they will progress it a little bit in each one until the eventual conclusion. With this one,
Okay,
the
yeah.
Celestial crashing into the planet is the big thing that's happening. The Celestial's name is, or was, Jovion, who is killed when Dr. Doom coats Hellrock, yes, like Hellrock from the original Ravage comics, in adamantium and shoots it into space like a bullet, exactly like what happened in the 90s comics,
Why
except
do we keep shooting people into space?
I don't know, but poor Ravage, man. No, his entire death is being used as a reference. Ugh.
in this case, it's targeting the Celestial, whose corpse crashes into Earth and creates this place called a Celestial Garden. This garden is full of good stuff and everybody wants access to its resources. So Norman Osborn, the same Norman Osborn who has lived this long thanks to the goblin serum in his system, puts a bounty on it, promising great riches to whoever can deliver control of the garden to Norman's cabal. One of the first people to respond to this bounty, and conveniently the first showcase character of this miniseries, is the Winter Soldier, or more specifically, Winter Soldier 13. This Winter Soldier was a cyborg, one of many built by Russia as technological super soldiers. Unsurprisingly, the Winter Soldiers were not treated very well, as both memories of their former lives were completely erased, and later they were entirely set up to fail. Winter Soldier 13 is the only one to survive, and she then vows to get revenge on the people who betrayed her, so she becomes a bounty hunter. While she takes up Norman's offer originally, she doesn't go through with it because she ends up discovering a data drive that can restore memories of her previous life that can only be activated through something in the garden. She does that, gets her memories back, and uses the Winter Song, which is like a souped up EMP, to disable technology in the region, which messes up Osborn's bounty. Of course, that wouldn't be the end of it, but from this point going forward, Winter Soldier is an
Apparently, she doesn't just shut down garden-related surveillance, she destroys the entire dark web, which has wild implications that don't really go anywhere, but whatever. Yeah, I mean, destroying all the technology in the surrounding area will always have a pretty massive impact.
ally of Spider-Man. Oh, also a Crossbones 2099 shows up in this, but he's just like a cyborg mercenary. He's not particularly special. We're gonna kind of buck the theme now, though Exodus doesn't really have as tight of a theme as many of the others do. The next comic is Loki 2099. However, this one is a little bit strange in relation to the others. This issue is less of a character showcase for Loki and more of the origin of a new location in this 2099 universe, New Asgard. It's not really relevant to anything else, and the characters who appear in this have never appeared again, but technically the issue follows a mysterious wanderer going by Loki, presumably the real Loki, but you know, you can never tell with him, and a woman known as Valkyrie. The whole thing spins out of the Alchemax Aesir project. Remember that from the 90s one? They made a bunch of false Norse gods to exploit the Thorite religion. Apparently that happens in this 2099 as well, and then those gods get into an actual war with the real Asgardians. That goes pretty badly for the gods, but Loki is able to survive it and then sacrifices himself to make a new Asgard with this woman who is actually just a Thorite and not technically Asgardian herself. It'd be interesting if it mattered, but it doesn't. And the next one's very big, so let's just go ahead and move past.
Why can't things matter, man? Damn it. Now we're getting into the Fantastic Four situation, right? Where it's like, I'm trying to get invested in the story that he's telling me, and then it just gets forgotten. We don't do anything with it anymore. At least yet. Kind of
You
a
never
bummer.
know.
Exodus issue 2, because we gotta talk about the new 2099 Avengers. This issue throws so many characters at the wall that the majority of them don't really get much, if any, development, at least not until later, but all of them look cool, and so I'm definitely going to talk about them. Especially because this has Moon Knight in it. The story doesn't begin with
that is
Moon
a
Knight,
cool
though,
Moon Knight design.
We don't have a skin like this in Marvel Rivals yet,
No.
Ah.
Not that
at
I
least
know.
not just Moon Knight, and technically it doesn't even begin in 2099, but before that. Not much before, though. It begins in 2098. This one does break the timeline a little bit because it tries to establish that Spider-Man 2099 was not actually the first hero of the 2099 era. There was an entire Avengers team in the previous year. They just didn't last super long, and so were not successful enough to kickstart a new age of heroes. Why don't they last long? Well, it's because they get almost immediately murdered by the 2099 Masters of Evil: Radioactive Man, Black Knight, Iron Patriot, Enchantress, Melter, and Baron Zemo. So then you might be wondering, if a bunch of supervillains kill the Avengers, why is Earth not ruled by a bunch of supervillains? Well, it's because they got bored, and so they just leave and go into space to do villain stuff elsewhere.
Oh, okay. This planet sucks. To space!
Yes.
Man, I love these convenient excuses for writers to be like, oh, I don't really know where to put them or how their motivations are going to work. Let's just send them out to space. And they'll come back eventually, but for now, put them over here in this corner.
Like I've said a couple times, 2099 in this era is just writers doing whatever they want, but it's self-aware, so it's fun. The celestial crash is enough to bring the attention of the Masters back to Earth, in no small part because Norman Osborn was among their ranks. He was the guy in the Iron Patriot suit, though he didn't end up leaving for space with them. So they start heading back to their home planet, but they are seen by Moon Knight. Even in 2099, Moon Knight will never stay dead, and this version has been chilling in a cool cyber pyramid on the moon, just keeping watch in case he is ever needed again. When that time finally arrives, he assembles a new team of Avengers. Now, these characters get no real storyline at all, they just kind of show up to form the team, but they do contain some familiar faces, the rebooted versions of John Eisenhart Hulk and Roberta Mendez Captain America. Filling out the roster is Rowena Stern, Captain Marvel, Jay Lee Arrow, Mackenzie Salgado, Wave, and Tashamba Black Panther. Notably not Kashamba from the Marvel Knights 2099, this one has a T in his name and is a different guy. While many of these characters will show up in future issues, and their ranks actually get extended, as we see in this final team shot that has
Is that Captain
I
Britain?
do like that Moon Knight design. It's so cool.
It is a cool design.
as other characters on the sides. Yeah, for this comic, the 2099 Avengers just exist to be cool character designs. Really, they only show up in a fight scene, but it's a damn cool fight scene, and so I'm gonna give it a pass. God, I love Moon Knight in every form. Halfway through this second batch, we reach Black Widow 2099. Yelena Belova, though how she survives this long is never actually explained. In fact, they make a joke about not explaining it. I don't really need to spend time explaining her because it is one of the same Black Widows. She just has cool 2099 cyberpunk tech. Plus, there are other characters in this issue that deserve a spotlight, most notably 2099 Hawkeye, who is a villain. He is still a sniper-type archetype in the very loosest sense of the word, though, as this Hawkeye does not use a bow, and instead uses a weird space station thing to kill his targets with basically an orbital laser.
I would say it's certainly an upgrade from shooting them with an arrow. And it's pinpoint accurate, so technically, Hawkeye being in the name, you know, bird's eye view, shooting down with orbital lasers. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Makes sense. Although, is this a little bit overkill?
Just a little bit.
Maybe.
Just a little bit.
He doesn't have any individual powers, and he's not important. He dies in this same issue, but still, the idea of Hawkeye getting his codename because he kills people with direct targeting from a space station is hilarious, and so worth mentioning. This issue also gives us a mutant.
Given how important the inheritor of the Latverian throne sounds, it might seem odd that I don't talk about Nostromo more. The problem is that while the comic sets him up to be important, this goes literally nowhere. and he never shows up again after this arc. There's also a Nostromo in the 90s, X-Men 2099, for note, so this one seems to just be here as a reference.
Kid named Nostromo, who is the successor to Latveria after Doom vanishes. Oh yeah, Doom vanished a little bit before this. It's largely just an excuse to not have him actively present in these ongoing events. But the introduction of Nostromo leads right into the next issue, which gives us the new X-Men 2099. This team has an even bigger lineup than the 2099 Avengers did, and their issue is the same length, so they get even less development. However, the team is a wild mix of characters from different concepts and eras. A few of them are just the same X-Men from the main timeline. Rogue, like many other people, has just managed to live this long, and Cable, as a time traveler, has appeared here just doing his thing. There are also more direct analogs of original X-Men characters. 2099 Cyclops has a transmutation-based power, kind of like Medusa, where he can turn people into stuff by looking at them, but he can't control it, and therefore uses this visor to keep his powers from killing everybody. There's also a new Phoenix, who is presumably just the newest host of the same Phoenix Force, though I don't know if this is ever explicitly stated, and Deadpool 2099, Warda Wilson, who is a strange case. There was technically a Deadpool 2099.
Warda Wilson is a funny ass name. I do agree. Warda. Is that a regular name? Wherever that originated from, I don't know.
I assume they needed another W name just for the funny.
Maybe.
And comic about
Because you
her
have
that was
Wade
published.
Wilson, and you need the comic alliteration.
I guess so. Do we really have to do a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure though? And have it somehow always come to the initials of JoJo with all of our characters?
I mean, if it were to be any character, it would be Deadpool that would have to carry on the comic alliteration.
Previously, but like several of the other 2099 spin-offs, it was just its own thing and not in the same universe as any of the others. Since this new 2099 just kind of mashes all those together and takes what the writers liked, though, this version has the Deadpool 2099 from that spin-off. In the spirit of that combined 2099, there are also a few members of the original 90s X-Men 2099 in here as well, specifically Cerebra, Bloodhawk, and Skullfire. I didn't really mention those last two in detail in the previous section, but Skullfire can absorb and release energy, and Bloodhawk is just a weird monster man. Again, the roster is gigantic, so we're not going to cover them all, but I do also want to mention this guy, Tulkas. He is a super strength character with adrenaline powers, and he has a counterpart in the main timeline, but weirdly, the 2099 one appeared first. However, it was only by a couple of months. 2099 Tulkas appeared in August of 2022, and the main timeline one was in October of the same year. I'm really curious how exactly that came to be, but I don't know. This issue ends with the X-Men and Spider-Man showing up at the Celestial Guardian, and technically there is a finale issue for the final confrontation, which has the X-Men, Spider-Man, and Avengers all fighting Norman Osborn's forces. This one doesn't technically introduce a new character, but we do see Norman Osborn finally suit up, not as the Green Goblin, but as the Galactic Goblin. With the defeat of Norman Osborn, the next of the 2099 reboot series comes to a close, and we move on to the third one, Spider-Man 2099 Dark Genesis. This one is where they start having a lot more cohesive themes within them, and the theming of Dark Genesis is anti-heroes. The overarching villain of Dark Genesis is a new iteration of Carnage, once again spawned by the Venom symbiote, though this is not the same Carnage as the Prime timeline, and this one looks, in my opinion, way cooler, because for some reason, he's a dinosaur. I don't know why they did this, but as I hit again and again in this era, these comics are kind of just about letting the creators have a fun time. Someone came up with the idea of Dinosaur Carnage, and so Dinosaur Carnage is what we got. Issue 1 also gives us a new hero, Spider-Woman 2099, who is an alien called an Iranion. We will get more development on the Iranions, but not till a later series, so I'll just save explanation of them for that part.
Probably due to the fact she's an alien. Unless if she's just quite humanoid, then yeah, the mask is certainly a choice.
As the name should make extremely obvious, Dark Genesis is a lot darker of a series than the previous one was, returning to the themes of corporate control over 2099 that the last one didn't get into as much. Even this Carnage is kind of an anti-hero himself, as his whole thing is murdering corrupt CEOs. While I don't typically have that much of an issue with this, Carnage's rampage becomes a little over the top in terms of bloodlust, spurred on even further by a new recanonized version of Halloween Jack. Issue 2 assembles an entire team of anti-heroes to take down Carnage, some new, some old. Spider-Man 2099 and Spider-Woman are still here, joined by Moon Knight and Venom 29 making their comebacks. We also get introduced to Blade 2099, who disappointingly does not get too much development, but we know that he is the son of the original Blade and is also somehow a zombie. So he's part zombie, part vampire, part human, and is also a surgeon in addition to being a monster hunter. So he's just a lot of things in one. Keeping up the insane...
That's one hell of a CV to send to a company.
Insanely rapid fire pace that Dark Genesis introduced characters at, the team also fights a new version of obscure Spider-Man villain Flipside, this one being a twisted robotic duplicate of Spider-Man 2099, because come on, what's a Spider-Man without evil clones? Also, Ghost Rider 2099 makes another appearance, which shouldn't be that much of a shock thematically. More surprising, Punisher...
Okay, wait. The comic also heavily implies that Ghost Rider hooks up with Lila. His mind is digital after all, so good for him. Are you telling me that me as an AI got to fuck another hot AI lady? I mean...
I guess so.
We disappear into our own little private server to celebrate? Hope you've got the bandwidth? Hey, yo! Wow. This is hilarious. I actually love that.
99 makes another appearance, which shouldn't be that much of a shock thematically. More surprising, Punisher shows up, but it's not the new Punisher 2099, it's Jake Gallows, who has been rebuilt as a second rebooted Punisher 2099, now a soulless, emotionless RoboCop ripoff, really. And then as a very last-minute addition in the final issue, we see Daredevil 2099, who had technically appeared in the first issue of Dark Genesis, but just as a regular lawyer, and we didn't know that he was going to become Daredevil. His name is Eric Nelson, and he's never really explained. He's only in this book for a couple of pages, and then the anti-hero team kills Carnage, and it's over. If Spider-Man 2099 Dark Genesis just sounded like a wild mess from me explaining it, yeah, that one's not my fault. Trust me, I read it all, and that is an authentic experience. I'm not really complaining about it because it's kind of just an anti-hero slugfest that was really fun to read, but boy, is the pacing intense. The next series of the 2099 reboot takes a kind of strange turn. It is another one that is focused around Spider-Man 2099. In fact, it is simply titled Miguel O'Hara Spider-Man 2099. But rather than the theme of new character introductions being Spider-Man like you'd expect, for some reason, the theme of this one is horror characters? The book starts off swinging by first introducing Miguel O'Hara's mom, who had not yet been seen in the reboot, and then immediately revealing that she has been infected with a zombie bite. Miguel webs her up and then takes her to Blade, who unsurprisingly makes another reappearance in this horror series.
That makes
Blade
sense.
and Miguel trace the source of the infection to a low-income community where they run into Bodio Man. Yay, he finally comes back. But he's a zombie now, along with all of his followers. They fight the zombies and trace everything to a scientist named Dr. Southey, who has done the classic zombie thing of trying to cure death and then discovering this weird undeath thing which he is now infecting people with. They send the zombies into space, and that's the end of that. This Spider-Man series is...
To space! What is the answer to space? Be gone!
If I can't see it, it's no longer a problem.
I know that you're supposed to take these as like cool little fun stories, and they are pretty awesome. There are some really cool characters, but it feels kind of bad, man. I wish there was just like a massive overarching plot that had to do with all the themes and things you could explore when it comes to a cyberpunk future, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I guess there's a reason to this day I really just like the original run of Miguel so much, and I haven't kept up with a lot of these.
Of course, not knocking it if this is something you enjoy. It does sound pretty cool, but I guess our expectations were kind of in one direction and this went in the other direction.
I feel like comics have a lot of strengths and they can go in a lot of different ways. And if you just want like a cool spectacle action thing, comics are really good at that. Those
Yeah.
just don't tend to be my favorite ones personally. Not to say that there haven't been ones like that that I've enjoyed in the past.
I mean, we have seen some pretty cool like crossover events where they're more so spectacle than they are for like story. And they've been pretty neat. But yeah, I guess our expectations for this one were zigging, but they wanted to zag, so we're kind of in a weird state.
And the zombies into space, and that's the end of that. This Spider-Man series is less interconnected by an actual overarching plot and more just by the general theme of monster villains. And who better to fit the monster villain theme than Dracula? That's right, we got 2099 vampires. Not only Dracula, but issue 2 also brings back Moon Knight 2099, who very happily for me is a recurring character in these comics, as you can probably tell. Plus, this one also very actively confirms that this Moon Knight is technically not even a human anymore, and is instead Khonshu just directly possessing and puppeting around the corpse of the most recent Moon Knight. The reason Moon Knight is here is that Dracula has returned and attacked his moon base, so Khonshu has called Spider-Man 2099 one of his closest allies for help. Why is Dracula on the moon, you might ask? Well, get ready for some very campy crap. At some point before 2099, Dracula had established a vampire community known as Terra Rubra, but then Terra Rubra gets nuked by a human solar weapon which eliminates almost all the vampires and wounds Dracula greatly. So to save their leader, the vampires that are left load some soil along with Dracula's wounded body into a special coffin and then shoot the coffin to the moon so that he can recover. And then, once he's better, he...
Oh boy, yeah. Gotta get ready for some really campy stuff. We just gotta accept it at face value now at this point. Everything's gonna end up in space at some point.
Wakes up and attacks Khonshu's moon base. This comic has a twist, however, because it turns out that while Dracula was healing, his vampire community had not gone fully extinct, and his daughter had instead led them to escape Earth into the stars. So now there's a whole society of space vampires, which doesn't get addressed much in this issue, but just you wait. That is going to be an incredibly major plot point in just a couple of minutes. So we will...
I can't wait to see how incredibly important they are going to be to the plot. I don't know if Sir Superhero is being sarcastic or not. I can't tell at this point.
We'll be coming back to it. So we have zombies, we have vampires, now let's move on to werewolves. Issue 3 of this series gives us Werewolf by Night 2099, whose concept is pretty simple, but a decent port of the werewolf trope to a cyberpunk setting. This werewolf's name is Creighton Rusoff, and somewhat surprisingly, he is not some sort of genetic experiment or cyborg. He is an actual werewolf, like magically infected with lycanthropy. After his transformation, he was struck with silver weaponry, which poisoned him, and now he works for a corporation called Cobalt, who cannot cure his condition, but can provide him with medication that keeps him alive. Of course, to continue receiving the silver antidote, Creighton has to work for Cobalt as one of their superpowered enforcers, and then the comic takes a somewhat predictable turn. Cobalt turns out to be the ones who were poisoning him in the first place, and then manipulating him into being one of their assets. Spider-Man 2099 helps him realize this fact, and then his fate is actually left open, as the issue ends by saying one of two things will happen. Either one, he continues working for Cobalt so that he can live, or two, he turns against his masters, gains his freedom, but then will eventually succumb to the silver poisoning and perish. And this Werewolf by Night never appears again, so presumably he fights back against Cobalt and also dies in the process. Issue 4 diverges a bit from the classic monster theme, but stays in horror territory.
Oh hey, isn't that the classic Spider-Man comic book panel from the original Spider-Man comic book run? Where he's under the rubble, then he gets back up? Yeah.
It's an homage to it.
As it decides to give us a 2099 iteration of a classic Marvel character, Terror. Not one that many of you have heard of, but I guarantee you that those of you who know Terror are probably very excited that he makes an appearance. He's kind of a cult classic. I guess he is sort of classic monster, as his power is demonic in nature. The story of the original Terror was of a man who killed a demonic bear and then was cursed to assume that bear's form, turning into this weird green monster man. 2099 Terror is still that Terror. Like so many other characters, he's an immortal and has just persisted to this time. Thus, the Terror Showcase issue of 2099 is kind of just a normal Terror story that takes place in the future. This monster has the ability to graft the limbs of other people onto his own body in any way, allowing him to use their powers and abilities. In the future of 2099, Terror is running a kind of Ripperdoc operation called the Body Shop, which he uses to source new limbs for himself. This runs him afoul of Spider-Man 2099, the two fight, and that's the issue. This is not a complicated one. This brings us to the final comic in the horror set. Another one that I teased briefly when we started this section, Man-Thing 2099. The Man-Thing issue begins by introducing the readers to another very important corporation within this universe, Pixel Corp. While Alchemax is technically on the top of the heap, Pixel Corp's specialty is data collection. Think like Facebook, but on steroids. They surveil literally everything, collecting as much data as they can and then selling it to the highest bidder.
I mean, who's to say Facebook isn't doing that now? I mean, Meta isn't doing that.
All the big corporations are selling
we all
data.
know that they're doing that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot you can do to get around that if you're using the internet.
Therefore, when a scientist named Cadmon Gray develops a method that can make humans invisible to machine surveillance, he instantly becomes a target. Pixel sends some men to assassinate him, and they are successful. However, very importantly, this issue ties back to one of the previous batches because Cadmon was operating out of the Celestial Garden that crashed into the planet a while ago. This place is now occupied mostly by mutants and is referred to as Oasis X. When the Pixel henchmen assassinate Cadmon, they dump him into a river here, but importantly, this river is still full of weird celestial tech. Therefore, Dr. Gray is turned into this biotechnological monstrosity known as the Man-Thing, not just running on Oasis X machinery, but also his own data tech. Rather than causing fear with a touch like the original, the touch of this Man-Thing instantaneously erases all data, which wouldn't necessarily be great in a lot of settings, but in a cyberpunk world, it is incredibly overpowered.
Yeah.
Communication devices, weaponry, even cybernetic implants instantaneously stop functioning the second Man-Thing gets his hands on them, which means he's able to counter everything Pixel sends pretty easily. Given that Spider-Man 2099's powers are biological in nature, Miguel has quite an edge, and is able to take the Man-Thing down out of a monstrous rampage. However, he does not beat him up entirely or bring him in. Miguel still lets Man-Thing erase the Pixel Corp data reserves and then escape into the sewers, because, like, he's a mindless monster, so he was a danger, but ultimately what he was trying to do was not that bad. Man-Thing is the final of this horror batch, a very strange series in the 2099 reboot, and also the last one that we're going to see, which takes place on Earth. The next, Annihilation 2099, is going to start moving into space things. We established the existence of the 2099 Nova Corps way back in the Conan one-shot, but this comic gives us more information on them finally. Issue 1 of Annihilation 2099 shows us that the Corps has been decimated, and their last surviving member is Wolverine. I'm sure at least a few of you were wondering where exactly he was, because we've seen so many characters who just live long enough that they survived to 2099.
Wolverine. Okay, sure. He's been everything else. Why not Nova Corps?
Yeah, I guess so. And if there were a character to survive this long into the future, yeah, it would be Wolverine. He'd be here.
And unsurprisingly, Wolverine is one of these. However, some run-ins that are never fully explained have damaged his healing factor and left him without some limbs that now simply aren't regrowing. To try and find a way to fix this, he has journeyed into space. He meets up with the Nova Corps and volunteers for an experimental procedure designed to infuse the Nova Force, the energy which gives the Novas their powers, into living cells. Given his healing factor, he's a great candidate for this, but as the process is happening, it attracts an alien species called exoparasites who kill everyone around, except of course for Wolverine himself. Even though his healing factor is now even stronger than it was thanks to the infusion of Nova Force in his system, the exoparasite invasion is too much, and Xandar is destroyed, with every resident being infected and transformed into another member of the alien monsters.
Now I need to know, you guys were already using this power, right? This force? Did the aliens never come by? Did you guys not know of them? Did you have no defenses against the parasites?
Maybe it's just from like fusing it into someone's biology as opposed to just like in the helmets or whatever.
I think we were underdefended and very underprepared for anything potentially going wrong here. Kind of unfortunate.
This, though, is not technically the plot of the issue. We see this in a flashback that Wolverine is telling to a bartender, because this is a very classic Wolverine story, and also, it's a Western. After the destruction of the Nova Corps, Wolverine is based.
Adding to the Western vibes is the fact that the comic doesn't actually lead by telling you who the main character is. He's just a lone Nova Corps wanderer whose name and claws are revealed at the end. Though he acts exactly like Wolverine the whole time, so it's guessable.
Basically just a lone wanderer traveling throughout the galaxy and helping people that he can. And while he's at this bar, it is attacked by a bunch of cowboy symbiotes. I've said it several times before, I'm saying it again now, and I will be saying it again. The reboot 2099 is just an excuse for writers to have fun. Wolverine beats them, of course, and that's the end of the main storyline. But this comic ends with a little teaser for the overarching plotline. While the previous Spider-Man batch was just a bunch of individual horror one-shots, Annihilation returns to there being one connecting thread between them. And at the end of the Wolverine Nova one-shot, we see a gang of space pirates recover the floating coffin of Dracula. It is space vampire time. This won't come to a head just yet. It's one of those things where the ending of every issue advances the plot a little bit till a final conclusion, so you're gonna have to be patient. Gotcha. Meanwhile, issue 2 of Annihilation is about Star-Lord. Star-Lord 2099 is a lone intergalactic hero named Amandla Estrellas. Her home planet was destroyed, but she was rescued by a Wakandan relief team. At this point in the timeline, unsurprisingly, Wakanda has gone very intergalactic, and they also provided her with a vibranium suit.
I mean, I think Black Panther in Marvel Rivals is that version, no? Or maybe that's just the skin.
No, he's definitely Wakanda in the rival setting is in space, but it might be 2099 Wakanda? I actually don't remember. My Rivals lore is my Marvel lore as a whole is really confused in my brain right now.
Her suit, by the way, is incredible. One of my favorite costumes of the entire reboot
really
era.
Cool. I like it.
I'll be honest, I might just like it because it reminds me of Power Rangers, but that does not invalidate its awesomeness. It's very openly stated within this comic that the adventure we see today is just one of many that Star-Lord has as she journeys from planet to planet, but in this particular one, she fights a living star. This star is technically Quasar 2099, though it has basically nothing to do with the original Quasar from the main timeline. If anything, it's closer to Ego 2099, living planet, living star. That's what I would have gone with, but whatever. The Ego thing actually would work on 2 levels because this star is oppressing all the planets within its system, demanding that they worship it as a god and pay it tribute, destroying them if they do not.
What the hell? This is like some corrupt cop shit. It's like, pay up your protection fee. What? A freaking living
Mafia
star? Oh my goodness. You know, the whole plan of going to space doesn't seem as sound as it did a second ago. Apparently it solved everything, but definitely not now.
How does Star-Lord defeat some sort of living sun god? Well, she discovers that it's actually not a god at all. It appears that it was once a normal star, but was animated as part of a rogue science experiment. It is powered by machinery at its core, which she is able to overload, reverting it to just a normal sun once again. And then, of course, the final page of the issue progresses the Dracula storyline a little bit more, with the next issue continuing the themes of this one. Though not the Dracula themes, I mean the Power Rangers themes. Issue 3 stars a crew of space miners who look like this, and I really shouldn't have to explain that visual inspiration to you. The miners land on a strange planet which seems to be alive, so I guess that's why Ego wasn't in the previous one. Ego is in this issue. One of the miners gets separated from the rest of his team and is forced to eat some of the material he finds inside Ego to survive. Now, before I show you what happens, I want you guys to guess. What character do you think this is a 2099 version of? It is a main timeline one, and it is guessable, but I want to see if any of you guys can get it.
You have any ideas, Sorby? Because
I'm trying. My brain is mush right now.
The Red Power Ranger eating something on an alien planet.
I don't know. Molecule Man. I don't know.
I have no idea who that is, but sure.
If you want to put your answer in the comments, go right ahead. I'll give you a second to do so before I spoil it. All right, you ready? Well, this guy named Ross.
Okay. While I can't say for sure if this was intentional, the name Ross Romero may be a Power Rangers reference. The Ninja Steel Red Ranger is named Adrian Romero, and his father, Dan Romero, was Red Ranger before him, so the name is tied with a Red Ranger legacy. Plus, the Ninja Steel season is space heavy, so the theme fits too. I know nothing about Power Rangers yet. Someday we'll get into it. So Super has a bunch of videos on it.
Romero was essentially his team's Red Ranger, so when he gets mutated, it's only natural that he turns into Red Hulk. By consuming some of Ego's flesh, Red Hulk has essentially inherited its power, which becomes immediately relevant as the planet is then slaughtered by Terrax, who in this reality is known as...
I guess so. I've heard you say this name before, but I don't know anything about this.
And he is just a living planet.
That's the be-all, end-all of his lore?
I'm sure there's more to it than that.
I love how you just said that. Like, oh, he's a living planet. Yeah, no shit, Serby. I got that, at least that much.
Terrax the Planet Hunter. And then the rest of the issue is just a big punch fest between Red Hulk and Terrax. It's not complicated, it's very much meant to be a Power Rangers thing, and I love it. Though I can't help but wonder if the original concept for this character came from a writer just seeing the older comic Planet Hulk and deciding to take it more literally. And then, of course, one more little Dracula teaser, he is getting closer. At this point, I hope all of you are as hyped about Annihilation 2099 as I am, because literally every issue in this miniseries is so cheesy and so cool. That is going to continue with the next one, which is my favorite, the demonic empowered Silver Surfer 2099. Unlike what you might expect, this is actually not the Norrin Rad Silver Surfer. Yes, he lives long enough to theoretically still be around in this era, but this is a different character altogether, one directly connected to Mephisto, which is very fitting as Mephisto actually made his first appearance in a classic Silver Surfer book. This surfer's name is Jonah Marlowe. Once a human from Earth who was dying of cancer, he was visited by Mephisto in his final moments and offered a deal. If he would sell his soul, he would receive great power in exchange for becoming Mephisto's emissary. Now, as Satan's surfer, he is not a herald of Galactus, but instead a strange celestial entity who appears to mortals in their times of need.
Do you see Galactus's thing over there? I kind of want my own. So, what do you think?
Mephisto seems so powerful that he could just make anything, make anybody into anything. Like, why don't he do this on his own? Why does he have to, like, make you make a deal with him? Can't he just force you into it?
Right.
Maybe it's all part of the game. Maybe he just has fun doing it. That, or there's like some specific rules for demons that it has to be a contract or something like that. That's a pretty common trope.
And convinces them to make deals to his master like he did. Very cool twist on the original Silver Surfer concept. I absolutely love what they did with this version of the character. Also, we just need to take a moment to appreciate how perfect his design is. They took the idea of demonic Silver Surfer and did it flawlessly. The empty flaming core, the connected horns on his head. God, he looks awesome.
The character designer Pete Woods has said that the empty flaming core surrounded by the silver ribs was inspired by the concept of the Silver Surfer having a caged soul, which is genius. I only saw that design on the editing stage of this video, or else I would have called it out verbally. It's such a cool idea.
Yeah.
As I'm sure everyone was able to predict, the point of this issue is Silver Surfer inevitably rebelling against his master's orders. In this specific case, he was sent to make a deal with a dying mother, an easy mark as he knew she would take any deal necessary to spend more time with her children. But she was a good woman who didn't deserve this trickery, and so it's the final straw for the Surfer, who refuses to do it and is summoned to Mephisto's realm to be punished. But Mephisto can kind of sense that punishment is what the Surfer wants. He wishes to die and therefore face penance for the sins of his life. Therefore, in classic devil fashion, Mephisto twists things on him, cursing the Surfer with immortality for the second time in 2099, funny enough, and leaving him to his own ends. So the Surfer now flies throughout the galaxy doing as much good as he can to absolve himself of his past crimes, which weirdly is a kind of good deal. I'm surprised that Mephisto let this happen because, like, yeah, now the Surfer is a really powerful superhero who is doing a lot of good in the world.
It is kind of dumb because, like, you probably could have just cursed him to eternal torment, which would
Or
probably
taking
be
his
more.
powers away.
Yeah, that too. A more fitting punishment than now you're immortal. No, I guess just don't get in my way, okay? Just make sure that you don't get in my way, whatever you do.
And as has happened for the previous 3 issues, it ends with a little bit of a Dracula teaser. But the next issue is the final one of Annihilation 2099, which means this teaser is immediately going somewhere. Time for issue 5, Undead or Alive. In the previous teasers at the ends of the comics, Dracula had vampirized the space pirates that had found him, turning them into his henchmen, but then their ship had crashed into a planet called Midas. All of them were injured in this crash, but survived, and this final issue is them recovering and breaking out. For something that had been teased for so long, the plot of this issue is shockingly less complex than you might think. It really is just Dracula and the other vampires breaking out and taking over the planet. The most notable thing that happens is that Dracula encounters Darkhawk 2099, but Darkhawk fans, this is not the one that you're familiar with. It's just like a literal dark hawk, like a giant demon bird monster that was imprisoned beneath the planet's surface. And of course, Dracula takes this into his army as well. Now, the only other really important thing to note about this overarching Dracula plotline is the reason why Dracula was in space in the first place.
Okay, before we get there, though, I do have to note, I have no idea who Darkhawk is. Never heard of him before. Or whatever
I know
they
the
are.
name, but I actually don't know who they are either.
It's still just funny that it's actually just a Black Hawk. Like, yo, it's literal name.
He was trying to reach the vampire homeworld, the one that had been established when the vampires left Earth as he was recovering. The Midas thing was just a detour. The comic ends with him returning to this mission, which might seem kind of odd. I mean, again, this is something that had been teased for issue after issue, but in this comic, Dracula just takes over Midas, gets more power in the form of the Darkhawk and Midas's resources, and then that's it, he moves on. But this is not the end of the Dracula plotline. In fact, far from it. Up until this point, all of the batches of 2099 reboot comics have been their own self-contained thing, sometimes with character crossovers and sometimes with overarching plotlines connecting them, but still pretty isolated. Annihilation changes this, because the entire comic was set up for the
really
next
funny.
batch.
If we end the 2099 series here with space vampires, which is so far removed from the original
Cyberpunk?
2099 setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it looks
Like,
like
I don't
we're.
dislike space vampires. That sounds cool, but like,
It does look like we're potentially wrapping things up in a neat little bow, hopefully, with this. I don't see the plot line here, but I could be wrong.
yeah.
Conquest 2099, an entire Dracula 2099 centric series. This one unifies everything that we've seen so far. Dracula now has an entire army of sci-fi space vampires, and it's going to take a huge team up to bring him down. We get space characters from Annihilation 2099 and also Earth-based ones. This one finally brings back Spider-Man 2099, who wasn't in Annihilation at all. And boy, is Dracula mad when Conquest 2099 starts, because after amassing his new army, he finally reaches the vampire homeworld and realizes that he is too late. It has already been destroyed, his people are dead, and now he's on the hunt for revenge. Cue an interplanetary war with the Iranians. Remember, I very briefly mentioned them earlier because that's the alien species that Spider-Woman is a part of? This is where they finally become plot relevant. They are an incredibly strong, warlike species led by a barbarian named Spider-Side, technically a name variant of a main timeline character, though he doesn't really have anything to do with the main Spider-Side. They also, of course, have their own spider hero type champions. We get a Web Weaver 2099, which is a very obscure pull, but not what I'm going to argue with because he looks really, really cool.
I love Web Weaver. He is not in very much shit, though.
I see. So, one of the many other Spider-Men?
So he is not Peter Parker. There are very few queer Spider-Men. Like, that is one that stays very, like, straight white man for most variants. But Web Weaver was I forget his name now, I'm blanking on it, but he was a classmate of Peter Parker's who had a crush on Pete, ended up stopping the spider bite from getting Pete, and gets bit himself by it.
Ah, I see.
That's such an obscure character to pull into this, though. What the fuck? I assume it can't be the same Web Weaver, but just the name alone is such a weird pull.
Well, yeah, it's a name pull because this is supposed to be an alien, which I don't think would be the same.
No, he was like a fashion designer, which is I think why the Weaver. But yeah.
Ah, I see.
Is informed of the war between space spiders and space vampires and sends some of their own heroes to investigate. Meanwhile, the intergalactic heroes are converging as well. We get an awesome fight between Space Dracula and Demon Silver Surfer. It's just so wild. As things progress, the fighting spreads not just to Earth's heroes, but to the planet itself, as Spider-Side finds out that Earth is Dracula's original homeworld and sends his army to conquer it too. Over the course of the series, more Iranian spider variants are introduced, including both Ghost Spider and Madam Web, and the conflict eventually comes to a close when the leaders of both armies are defeated. Spider-Side is killed by Dracula, and then Dracula is shot into space by Silver Surfer, far enough that his corpse will not be relevant to the galaxy anymore.
To space! Into space! Bigger!
It's never gone wrong before. Just keep sending them out there.
Man, the Hulk sure is a problem. What should we do about him? Send him to space. Yeah, that'll be great. It won't come back to bite us in the ass at all. It's worked every single time, Serby. How can you not send people to space?
Yeah, you're right.
I know. I'm always right.
Annihilation Conquest ends with both of the warring parties actually surviving in one way or another.
Okay. Two things. One, I meant Conquest 2099, not Annihilation Conquest in this clip. In my defense, both of those are real comics, though, so it's a reasonable mistake. Secondly, if my summary Conquest seemed light on plot and detail, yep. This one really is nearly non-stop fight scenes. Not complaining, very cool, but not a lot of lore for me to cover. If you want to see the fights, read the series. Fair enough.
Fair enough.
This is yet again one of those spectacle things of really cool ideas clashing together.
Much of the Iranians are decimated, but their survivors are led by Madam Web, and the space vampires are led by Lilith, Dracula's daughter, who is returned to life, or unlife, or whatever. Now that Conquest 2099 has concluded, we are at the end of the 2099 reboot, at least what we've currently gotten, though there will be more. The final panel teases Galactus 2099 reviving Dracula. This is apparently going to be seen in 20...
Why did we send him to space? Why can't we just double tap?
25, though the comic has not been officially announced yet. I love the 2099 reboot. I'll be honest, I hadn't read all of it until I decided.
This really is just a playground for writers to do whatever they want to do. And honestly, you know, it's not a bad thing to have. It can be fun. And I imagine being able to stretch your creative limits without having to worry too much about like the whole overarching plot is a nice release for them too.
I did to do this video, but I'm so glad that I did. It is wild from start to finish, and as I will say one final time, it's clearly just written for fun, and that's what these kind of comics are meant for. And now, in the spirit of this being an accurate video, I do have to address one final thing before we wrap up, and this is kind of going to break the cohesive timeline of everything, but blame Marvel for it, not me. There is another 2099 series that released after the reboot, this being Symbiote Spider-Man 2099, which stars Miguel, but in a symbiote arc, as the name should make fairly obvious. Here's the thing, It's not part of the reboot. It's considered part of the original canon. I do kind of get why they did this, because they brought back Peter David, the writer of the original Spider-Man 2099, to tell another story in his world, and that's cool. But I do wish that they had branded it separately, because it is not related to the reboot. Why couldn't they have called it 2099 Classic or something? Though transitioning nicely into the ending segment for this video, I guess that Marvel introducing just a little bit more timeline weirdness right at the end is the most accurate thing that they could have done to...
Yeah, honestly, I do agree though that this entire issue could have been avoided if it was just like a one-shot that was clearly labeled as one. Like, for the fans of the OG.
2099's history. 2099, it's kind of a mess. I hope that I presented it to you effectively in this video, but my god, it took me so long to parse out all the different timeline things, and honestly, I couldn't have done it without help. You've never seen me do this in a YouTube video before, which should tell you just how much help I did actually need, but I gotta specifically shout out a real-life buddy of mine, Luna, who is a huge 2099 nerd. I could not have done this video without their assistance. They are also an artist and animator on both Instagram and Blue Sky under the username ThatRandomRobot. Please go check out their work and give them a follow. I need to give them something back for putting up with all the questions I bombarded them with while making this video. Now, as complicated as all of this has been, let's try to end this very long project with some sort of lesson and moral about narrative. I like ending the feature-length videos with that. Though despite all the complexity of these lines of comics, and actually I guess because of it, there is definitely a lesson that we can learn from 2099. While the confusion around its timeline might be very annoying at times, the 2099 comics are still pretty cool, right? And we do need to remember that is the point. As much as I am kind of a historian for the Marvel world, these comics are not history. Not everything is going to line up perfectly, and they're just meant to be fun. Look, the pop culture space on the internet is very negative at times. I think we all know that, and I could so easily take the end of this video in that direction and just complain about how long it took for me to put all this together. But instead, I'm gonna go hard in the opposite direction. 2099 is enjoyable, and when you're reading these books, which by the way, I do highly recommend, I'm always gonna end these long videos by telling you to go pick up the comics yourself, I hope that you focus on the superheroes doing cool superhero stuff and having their own stories rather than how exactly the canon works.
Yeah, that is a good point to make. Like, not everything, not every piece of media out there has to have the most amazing, cohesive lore with political intrigue and mystery and thrillers. It's just...
Well, I think you can look at a story and enjoy it for what it is and not be like, well, but this doesn't make sense. It doesn't match with this other one that ran 3 years ago. So yeah, just enjoy it and don't worry about it too much, because it's going to get retconned and changed around a million times afterwards anyway. So.
That is always going to be my recommendation if anybody's going to try and get into something like Warhammer Fantasy or Warhammer 40k. Expect things to get retconned, so just enjoy the things that you enjoy for the reasons you enjoy them, really. Now, of course, we do have to acknowledge that people have their own like preferences to media. So if this isn't your thing, that's completely fine. I think
very much so.
A lot of what Sir Superhero is talking about here with like negativity within pop culture is the need for people to speak about things that they hate and continue to follow the things that they hate to speak about them more. It's like, if it's not for you, just move on.
But even worse is they'll be like, I love this series, and then proceed to not love anything about the series. I'm like, do you know?
It really sucks to see it's so rampant, especially when people create like day one accounts just to complain about something that they don't really know what they're talking about and start spreading misinformation, and that misinformation spreads and it becomes an entire movement of people being misinformed about something. It's just, I guess it's the internet. Like, it's always been this way. And it's sad to see it happen, but...
I think, unfortunately, we live in an era very much where social media is designed to spread it, and it's just getting worse as each year passes.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's getting worse or we just have more ways to enable it to happen. Depends on how you look at it, I suppose. My advice is always got to be, enjoy what you enjoy. Don't worry about other people's opinions about it. As long as you're not hurting anybody, and then it's all good, right? Just spend your time doing the things that you like. Be happy. That is my command. Be happy, or else I will send you to space.
Just enjoy the things you enjoy. They don't have to be perfect.
I'm not saying that continuity isn't important or that it's something that can be ignored, but I am absolutely saying that the fun part comes first. And in terms of the canon, well, that's what I'm here for. You can leave the complicated stuff to me. So I guess that means the moral of this video, in a sense, is that when you pick up a comic book, which again, I sincerely hope all of you do, don't overthink it, don't worry about if it's stupid or nonsensical. The most important thing is to have some shocking fun with it. Thank you all so much for watching. These feature-length videos take forever to make, but I really do think that 2099 deserved one. I hope you all agree with me and enjoyed this whole thing. Since I am tired and have so much editing to do, I will do the ending plugs fast. First off, I have a Patreon. You can get early ad-free access to all my long-form videos and an exclusive video every month. The link to that is in the description of this video, on my YouTube channel page, and also my username there is the exact same as it is here, so it's not difficult to find. Extra big thank you to those supporting me there already. Making content for you is my full-time job, so supporting me there really helps me continue to do that. Speaking of helping me, shout out to my artist, Ruben Perez, who drew the avatar you've been watching talk at you for the last 2 hours. Go check him out on his socials, he does a fantastic job. And finally, now the audio recording for this video is done. I need a nap, and I think it's gonna be a long one, so I will see you all in 2099.
Oh boy. Oh, come back. We need more lore. Ooh. That was a whole shocking thing. We really went in directions with the reboot, huh? I wasn't expecting it to go that way, but hey, at least it ended in a spectacle that was pretty fun overall.
I did not actually realize that it was a different Miguel in the newer stuff. Like, I haven't read a whole lot of it. I've just kind of like peeked in and out a few times, and it never quite hit me the same as like reading the older ones, so it's why I never stuck around, I guess. But yeah, it's interesting seeing it all collectively here like this. I'm like, I think it makes sense why it didn't stick with me like the older ones did.
Yeah.
But I also went into it at a disadvantage because I didn't realize it was completely different.
We're going in a new direction. Maybe it's because the old one didn't really work out except for Miguel, and we do want to build a universe around this, so this is our idea. Which is fine. I still don't understand why we had the whole mess in the middle of us just being like tippy-tapping in and out of it being canon, it being non-canon, having
I assume it's just them not knowing what direction they want to take it, so that's just where they ended up.
Yeah, just some weird ideas that were more likely fueled by the fact that we don't know if the comic is going to survive. This isn't really selling well, so we made decisions to cut things. And yeah, it's just an unfortunate reality of this also being a business, making a story about evil businesses. Oh man, the greatest irony out there. Regardless, yeah, some cool stuff. I'm glad that I checked out this video though.
Yeah, it definitely did not end how I thought it would, but it's interesting to see.
If you knew how it was gonna end, then you already have seen the video. Because like, what is your final guess gonna be about 2099 if not space vampires fighting space spider aliens versus I don't know, Wolverine as Captain Nova? Right? What the fuck? Some crazy balls to the wall stuff that we've seen today. But yeah, that's gonna do it for me and Serby today, my dudes. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Hope y'all enjoyed your time and hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. We will catch you guys in whatever we check out next. Later, dudes.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.